I'm Nick Barnett. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Interstellar Mapping and Interstellar Innovation. We do mapping of the moon. We can do mapping from anything from basic mapping, so the DEMs, high resolution mapping down to 1 meter resolution, mineralogy, radiation, line of sight, through to temperature and subsurface temperature and resource detection. And then we also manufacture a lunar regolith simulant as well.
How did you get into this industry?
I've always wanted to be in the space sector. I've always wanted to build cities in space. That was always the end goal. It has been a bit of a tangent. The fact that I did the space degree at university with no jobs around at the time, I did move into the oil and gas sector for 17 years. And then in 2019, I moved back into the space sector, doing a PhD, starting the business, and now we're working on the moon.
Simulate moon soil, is that right?
Yeah, so we manufacture lunar regolith simulant, which is effectively just a product which replicates the lunar regolith that you find on the moon. Because we've only brought back a few hundred kilograms of regolith from the moon, we can't utilize that for testing facilities. We have massive testing facilities, say the Lunar testing facility in Cologne. It has 900 tons of lunar regolith simulant in it. And that is for testing, so robotics, astronauts, drilling, human impact, the impact on elements, how we can manufacture materials out of the resources on the moon, how that's going to impact just any day-to-day operations on the moon. We need to manufacture this simulant that replicates the properties that we're going to be seeing on the moon. What we've done is we've been able to create a simulant that does the mechanical properties. The chemical composition is close, but we're not willing to say it's one or the other, whether it's a Mare or a Highland. We don't sit exactly in those bags. We say, look, we're a mechanical simulant. This is a simulant that has a particle size distribution that is similar to the product on the moon. It has the same physical characteristics in the fact that it's sharp. It causes a lot of damage to any products that come into contact with it. The dustiness will go on solar panels, and how does that impact solar panels? When you drive a rover across this product, it'll go into any moving parts, exactly the same as how you would see on the moon, and it causes scratches and damages those moving parts. And so people can use this product for those purposes where they go, how is my rover going to be able to operate on the moon? Is it going to be impacted? And which areas are going to be the areas that get impacted by this product?
Do you know about this industry that most outsiders doesn't really know or understand?
The term rocket scientist is always commonly used, right, to establish someone who is incredibly intelligent and smart. Rocket science, for the most part, is
Don't
like...
tell me they're not.
Is like, no, they're incredibly smart people.
Okay.
Don't worry about that. Incredibly intelligent human beings. But I see that a lot of people doing what they do in life are incredibly intelligent about what they do. I used to do cotton chipping. Cotton chipping is a job that used to exist in Australia where you literally have a hoe and you used to walk along the rows of cotton and chip out the weeds. Now, generally these people that would do this job year on year would probably, when I worked, didn't actually finish high school. And so me being going to university, I was called Neil Armstrong because of my aspirations in space among the crew, and they used to see me as smarter than them. But I used to turn it back to them and go, you guys know more about the cotton growth, you know more about the weeds and the environment and everything. You're incredibly smart. And so rocket scientists are very smart, but so were the cotton chippers I worked with, right? They knew things that I didn't know and other people in the world wouldn't know. Now, what most people don't recognize is that just because you are not in the space sector and you want to get into the space sector, the experiences you have in another sector, life experiences and everything, are actually very useful for the space sector. The sector employs a lot of people across the demographic based on just what their knowledge is, what they have done in life. We have nurses, we have cleaners, we've got marketers, we've got advertisers, we've got engineers, we've got scientists. There's a massive broad spectrum. Everyone's needed in the space economy, not just the lunar economy where I sit. It's interesting. I do see that, like those guys with the cotton chipping experience, I've learned things from them that I've actually adapted into my lunar knowledge and understanding on how we work in the moon environment. I think that no one needs to think that they're limited by what they're doing, just by what they're doing. They can move into the space industry if they have the passion to, because they will bring something that probably no one else has or has thought of, and that may be the key that actually moves the space sector in a very, very positive and big way in the future.
We're at the roundtable. I recorded you saying if anyone ever tells you that you can't do it, that you don't have the experience to do it, just use us as fire. If that's what you really want to do, then just keep working at it.
100%. If you want to be going the space sector and you've been pushed off your trajectory for whatever reason, yes, 100%. And like you said, if someone tells you no, you can't do it because of whatever reason, you're not smart enough, like I said, you got the wrong demographic, the wrong background, you're in the wrong country, that's all wrong. If there's a will, there's definitely a way, especially in the space sector. There's always a will and a way.
That would be continuous to my next question would be, how does your company actually plays in the Asian space economy?
We play in the lunar environment. Now, we are a niche part of the space sector, and we're in a bit of a different sort of category. The fact that we rely very heavily on government contracts, and what the government will is dictates a lot of how the funding requirements come out and how that economy moves forward. With the Earth-based observation, sort of like the satellites around Earth, there's a huge commercial sector in that environment. The economy exists, right?
Yes.
And so they don't rely on government. Even though government is a big backer, if government pulled out, the economy would still exist.
It's self-sustainable at this point with
That's it,
LEO and GEO.
100%. Whereas the lunar one hasn't moved into that category yet. It's still very much in a learning phase and heavily reliant on government. Through NASA, that's the leading one where the biggest money is coming from. China is very good at moving forward and hitting goals. And it's been evident that they've been pulling their missions forward little by little, moving forward. It's amazing to see their growth, and what they're doing is just absolutely amazing. Then you've got Japan. Japan is investing a lot of money in rovers and lunar stuff. iSpace has got their satellites, they've got the landers going. They're doing lots of stuff in Japan. It is brilliant to see what they're doing. However, they are somewhat anchored back to America. Like they're moving in a direction where they could be moving away from that, especially with the current political cycle. The next great one for space sector, for the moon, I should say, is Korea. Korea have got some amazing facilities. I've worked there previously for a month or so. They have this massive thermal vacuum chamber, which is a huge test bed that you can just put a car in, and it goes down and it brings it down to absolute, near zero atmospheric pressure. So you can actually test these huge, great big things there. They've sent a mission up around the moon as well. They've got this great data on the moon, but once again, they were heavily anchored back to America. If they can figure out their independence within the lunar economy, then they could actually be a super powerhouse that rivals Japan. It'd be hard for them to catch up to America, but I think they could really stick it to a lot of other countries and do really, really amazing work. And I think between China, Japan, and Korea, they're doing amazing work. Now, we can't cancel out India. India's had huge success. I'm not too sure what's happening with them over the last few years. So after Chandrayaan mission, that was incredibly successful. We haven't really heard much from them as to whether they're partnering with other countries and we're moving forward. And I think that's what they're doing. They're definitely one to watch. And I think they could actually really stand up on their own 2 feet by themselves without the support of the other nations and actually move forward. If they could all pull a strategy together, whether as a group or independently, then they could really do some amazing work on the moon.
A little bit of segue, because this is what I'm hearing very consistently over a few people in this industry, is that countries in Asia need to get their act together.
It depends on what the country wants to invest in, because space is an easy one to do because you obviously have the defense applications and you got the health and you got the environmental implications. Earth observation is actually an easy one for a lot of those countries to do, and a lot of them do that. And so there are investments as to how big those investments are. Unfortunately, space is seen as it's a nice to have. It's not seen as a helpful sector to have within your country that's actually going to boost the economy. And we have seen that with the Germans. They did a study a few years ago in the space sector in Europe, and they found out that for every dollar they invest, they get about $7 back in investment back into the country. Now that $7 didn't necessarily go into the space sector, it went into the economy. Now, through that investment, And that was just purely because the perception was if you have a space sector within your country, then you are one of the leading countries, you've got top scientists, you've got this great research happening, and you are at the pinnacle, right? And so people are willing to invest this extra money back into your economy. Now, as to whether that plays true with other economies around the world, I don't know. I'm not an economics advisor. However, if people could play into that and they could actually put a dollar value on how much the governments invest into the space economy and how much they get back in return, then we could actually get a much more balanced opinion, and therefore that could actually be sold to the greater Asian nations. However, there is just the fact that Japan has invested so heavily in the lunar domain is just amazing to see. And yeah, they've got some amazing projects over there. China are investing heavily and continuously. They've got great visions for 2035. I think they want to get a human base on the moon, or permanent human settlement, I should say. They said they want to get humans on the moon by 2030, and then they've pulled it down to 2029. That's them hitting targets successfully and pulling their deadlines forward, which is very unique in the space sector. Other interesting thing though that is happening at the moment is the Trump administration has got all these other lunar missions moving forward too. They've gone from having just a few CLIPS providers landing a few every year to all of a sudden there's going to be a huge amount of rovers going to the moon over the next 2-3 years. They're really going to do a large research program on how they're going to do that. Now, as to whether they're going to be isolationist and whether they're going to do it just by themselves, or whether they need outside partners from other countries to come in and to provide those supporting roles. So whether it's sensors and electronics, mobility parts, whether it's mapping and etc., that's all yet to be seen. But you'd think that with so many projects ongoing, there would be opportunities, and I do know of outside companies who are on those particular projects and moving forward. So there is that opportunity as well to move forward with the Americans as well. It would be great to see everyone build a lunar program, but obviously it's because it's expensive. We're seeing the majors having difficulty land on the moon, and I think that has slowed down that economy a bit as well.
Slow down the economy, as in, sorry, could you repeat that last part?
Yeah, slow down the lunar economy. Instead of having a lot of scientists going into about how the moon's being formed, how we can get commercial industries on the moon, improving our mapping capabilities. So for our sake, people wanting to get a bigger uptake, say in getting lunar regolith simulant to actually test their stuff. Everyone's focused more on, well, the primary focus is trying to land on the moon at the moment. Firefly was successful last year, and that was the first American mission that has been successful in a long time. iSpace has had troubles. Hopefully they'll be successful in the next one. I'm hoping they are. So I think that has slowed things down a little bit as well. Everyone's like, oh, that's a very large challenge. We need to get people on the ground first. I'd say once we're successful in getting more landers on the ground, the lunar economy, I think, is going to grow from there and expand much further and broader.
What timeline do you forecast that the lunar economy would, I don't know, double in market contribution?
See, that's my crystal. I don't have a crystal ball for that. Like, I'm hoping the next 10 years, I would like to think that in the next 2-3 years, at least 50% of the landers are successful. That is going to be great because that's going to start moving us forward. And then once we get success is going to build from that first success, right? It's just going to grow. We're going to learn from that first success and go, okay, cool. How did you guys do it? How did you do it successfully? Let's replicate that. And so we're going to be able to solve that problem very quickly once that first land is down. Big ticket item, which I see as a major problem within the lunar economy, is having a driving force as to why we need to be there. It's not just we're going there because it's hard. Yes, that's a good reason for me. I like that. But we needed a driver, an economic driver, why people need to be there. Why do we need to be mining it? Why do we need the resources? What's going to sustain that economy moving forward? I think that's the one key issue which we haven't addressed properly. Yes, ESA, JAXA, NASA definitely investing in this, moving the economy forward. However, what does it look like after they stop investing or they start reducing their investment, and how do we keep that moving forward? That solving that problem, and there are many people, numerous people I've spoken to have come up with numerous solutions as to what that would be. Once again, I'm an engineer, not an economist, and so it'd be good to see one of those to actually come to fruition. For instance, if Interloon, for instance, if they did find helium-3 and it was viable to extract helium-3 from the moon and bring it back and sell it on Earth, then that could be a great economy driver to sustain that lunar economy, because they would require large rovers, they'd require rockets, they'd landers, they'd be better mapping, greater communications. All this just off one little resource that's needed on Earth by one company just to extract that would drive an economy forward. Just having that would be perfect.
And this kind of leads down to the question of graphical and political interests. I'm not in the industry, but it seems like everyone is an enemy, but everyone is also trying to be friendly, just so we can get up there together.
It depends who you're talking to. Definitely, it's a very small world, the lunar world. If you say something or you do something, you can be ostracized, or you can be that can go through pretty quickly. It's a great community to be part of, actually. Everyone seems to be very positive. They have a great outlook. They're all trying to get to the same goal. We all see the same challenges, and we want this to succeed as well. We are trying to work together. You do see a lot of companies actually coming together and going, how can we work together? Yes, there is competition. At forums like this where the economy does work, there is a strong commercial aspect to it, then you probably would see that segregation between competing companies. However, in the lunar side of things, I would like to think that, yes, there are some that like to do things by themselves, and that's fine. That's how you want to operate. That's perfectly fine, because you've got the skills, you've got the finances, and you've got the resources behind you to do that. But there's other ones that are like, well, we can't do everything ourselves. They do go to the market and they do look at what's available, and they look beyond the country's borders for those solutions as well. And so, which is good. And so that's what we're really driving towards. Yes, there are some countries that don't play with others. That's the geopolitical things. But for the most part, companies within those nations that actually work together and have those favorable connections, you will see that overlap and that them playing nicely in the sandpit together.
That's a very positive note to end on, seeing how a lot of companies, it's not just competition. I think it mainly depends on the perspective, and it's really great how companies are actually seeing it's hard to get there. It's not easy. Let's learn from each other, and let's try to collaborate as much as possible and see how we can actually get there, and then try to benefit the economy or the world as a whole. Thank you so much for your answers. Is there anything you would like to share?
Space is for you. Get into it.
Get into it. Even if you don't have experience, you would have experience even as a cotton shipper.
That's it. Cotton shippers. Yep. You can.
Anything is possible if you put your mind to it.
That's exactly right. Yep.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.